hung out in Seattle for a couple of years, watched my life just fall apart, and said I got to move home. So moved home. I was already on the path, so moved home and bought my first duplex in 2010. So that's.
And you took advantage of the
FHA loan, actually.
Oh, you didn't do VA?
No, I've done my VA since then, but I used an FHA 203K loan. So I did the rehab loan.
Oh, you did a rehab.
I did a rehab loan.
Interesting. Wow, your first purchase, you took on a duplex and did a rehab.
I didn't know any better.
So did someone guide you through that, or?
Yeah, when I came back, my longtime friend here referred me to an agent who helped them, who's now my mentor and business partner.
You did that with Kama?
I did that with Kama, yeah. So
amazing.
She was my agent, and it was great. I didn't have anything to lose, right? Literally, that was my thought process was, what are they going to take away I think I had a Subaru at the time. Not a truck. It was a truck at the time. What are they going to
That was back when you put cars on your loan application?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I've got this Ranger, man. This asset is $2,000. But I just squeaked by, and I thought, okay, I can swing both sides of this. It's not gonna hurt me. I had a W-2 job at the time.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 50 of the Realized Gains podcast. I'm Stephen Tran. I'm a multifamily and short-term rental investor, and I'm an agent in Oregon and Washington.
And I'm your co-host, Jordan Lee, mortgage lender based here in Portland, and I'm licensed in about 10 states. And I invest in single-family homes. And who do we have on the show today?
Yeah, so we had Mathew Wray. He's an agent. So he started out in the Marine Corps before he started in real estate, and he kind of tells us the story that where his life was headed, and then eventually he got into house hacking, got into his first duplex, and really built a good portfolio from there.
Yeah, and this was all like while he was working retail, but eventually he caught the bug and transitioned out of that. So he shares his story, and he also talks about the importance of bringing the investment mindset into real estate and how that can impact your ability to be a fiduciary for your client.
No, he became a realtor, quite a good one at that, and I really appreciate the conversation we had about what it takes to really take care of your clients, and I think that's one of the best lessons we take from this episode.
Enjoy.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 50 of the Realized Gains podcast. I'm Stephen Tran.
And I'm your co-host, Jordan Lee, and we're super excited to have Mathew Wray here with us today. Mathew, do you mind just giving us a quick introduction, like where, I don't know if you're from Portland, like how you kind of, what your career arc was and what kind of got you into real estate?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course.
I was born in Portland. I was raised up in St. John's, native here.
Unicorn.
Yeah, I know. We call them SNOBs, Society of Native Oregon Borns. You too? Yeah, we're going to tell everybody about it.
Yeah, I grew up in Northeast Portland.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Moved to the suburbs when I was a kid and graduated high school, joined the Marine Corps. I was smart enough to go to an alternative school for smart kids, but not smart enough to stay out of the Marine Corps. So I did that, and then...
right out of high school, you joined?
I graduated early, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and then joined the Marine Corps. Yeah, trick me once, shame on you. Trick me twice comes later in the story.
Wait, so you were under 18 then?
I was 17, yeah.
Wow.
My parents had to sign off.
Yeah.
My mom cried. Sorry, Mom. She'll watch. One view. And it was just really important to me. I think I had something to prove. I was super scrawny, nerdy. I'm still nerdy.
No family history?
All family history in the Navy on my
Navy,
dad's side,
okay.
yeah. So I'm a black sheep. I joined the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
So, in the Department of the Navy.
So you guys probably still joke about that?
They do. I've got an uncle who's 96 and was in World War II on the Missouri, and so I still remind him. It's cool. I joined the Marine Corps, but did that. Great experiences. It actually ties into what I do now.
What year
weirdly.
was this?
98 to 2002.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
so like right during like the...
So you were there during 9/11?
Yeah, I was in Darwin, Australia on 9/11, and then we put to sea the next morning. Total blackout of news. November 7th, I think, I watched cruise missiles fly up out of the ocean. I was in Pakistan, and then by early December, I was in Afghanistan. Sitting in a hole for 4 months with no clothes, no food, just all MREs, water, no shower, clothes rotted off the body. Like it was crazy to think it was only 20 years ago.
Man,
but nothing.
crazy.
I mean, other than that, you just sat in the desert and stared out of the horizon for 4 months.
So MREs.
All MREs.
Do you is it like something nostalgic to you now, or is it like if you even smell it, it's the worst thing ever?
It is kind of nostalgic.
Yeah.
It's been long enough that the peanut butter's worn out of the system, and it's nostalgic now.
Yeah.
It's been 20. I mean, I got out again in 2006, so it's been almost 25 years now.
And that
Almost 20 years.
are you still like?
Yeah, I mean, we're Facebook friends. I've helped one of them. He lives down in Southern Oregon with some real estate stuff, and I've given advice. I've got a friend that flips in Texas, and so we talk from time to time.
So how big was the crew?
Like 30. So in that platoon there was 30. Yeah.
Okay, and a few of them are in real estate.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
There's another guy in another platoon. I think he's an agent in Eugene. But without Facebook, I didn't get on Facebook until probably, I don't know, 2015, 2016. So a long time had passed, and I reconnected. But it's not like I love them. I'd go drop everything to help them, but it's not a hub of my life.
Sure.
Yeah. And then drove ambulances for a couple years. Rejoined the Marine Corps.
Went back. Wow.
I went back. I know. Tricked me. Man, so stupid.
Was that on your own volition, or did they like call you?
No, I volunteered.
Yeah, okay.
I volunteered. I went to Iraq. So I was in Iraq for 7-8 months.
Okay.
And then got back and was done.
I was gonna say, hopefully it was a little bit more organized than the first time you went.
No, it was actually worse.
Oh, was it worse?
Yeah, it was worse. Yeah. I mean, it was all fine. It's fine. It's not fine, but it's as fine as it can be, right? And I took a lot from it, and I think that's what's important, because right after I got back, I moved to Seattle. Life kind of collapsed. Marriage fell apart. Like shocking things, when you look back in hindsight. At the time, it was blindsiding me, but when you look back, you're like, oh man, I've got fingerprints all over that. Like my actions led to these points, and so hung out in Seattle for a couple years, watched my life just fall apart, and said I got to move home. So I moved home. I was already on the path, so moved home and bought my first duplex in 2010. So that's.
And you took advantage of the
FHA loan, actually.
Oh, you didn't do a VA?
No, I've done my VA since then, but I used FHA 203K loan. So I did the rehab loan.
Oh, you did a rehab.
I did a rehab loan.
Interesting. Wow, your first purchase, you took on a duplex and did a rehab.
I didn't know any better.
So did someone guide you through that, or?
Yeah, when I came back, my longtime friend here referred me to an agent who helped them, who's now my mentor and business partner.
You did that with Kama?
I did that with Kama, yeah. So
amazing.
She was my agent, and it was great. I didn't have anything to lose, right? Literally, that was my thought process was, what are they going to take away I think I had a Subaru at the time. Not a truck. It was a truck at the time. What are they
That was back when you put cars on your loan application?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I've got this Ranger, man. This asset is $2,000. But I just squeaked by, and I thought, okay, I can swing both sides of this. It's not gonna hurt me. I had a W-2 job at the time, so.
I mean, what was your thought with getting that duplex? Were you like, I'm going to live in one side and rent the other, or I just want a duplex?
Yeah.
Or were you coached into it?
Vaguely coached. I knew I wanted a rental property.
Okay, so you had the mindset.
Yeah, back in Long Beach, in California, between my Marine Corps careers time when I was driving ambulances, I was sitting in an apartment building that a family friend of my then wife owned, and they'd owned it free and clear for 30 years. And so we're 2 blocks from the beach, and I'm doing the math of all the apartment units. I was like 24, 25,
right.
24. I thought, oh man, I got to own real estate. Like, I've got to own real estate. It took a couple of years to figure it out. So I wanted a multifamily. Hindsight, I should have gone for more. I mean, I should have got a fourplex, but hey, duplex worked out really well. Still have it. Love it. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
And you've kept it the whole time.
I have. I've tried to sell it a couple times. And by tried, I mean talked about it, and then smarter people in my life stopped me from doing that, and now I stop myself from doing it. I've matured enough to know that that's an asset that I can tap with lines of credit and use to buy other stuff. I don't need to sell it to get the same result.
Right.
So, and I'm gaining equity hand over fist.
I was going to say, like, back in 2010, the duplex market probably was super cheap and
was atrocious. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think all in with the FHA rehab, the 203 rehab, I think it was like 260.
And this is in Portland or what?
Northeast.
260.
Wow.
You put 3.5% down, so you were in for what?
It was 230 or 230 when I bought plus the 30, so 260 all in. So I think I had it was like 14,000.
Yeah, 14, 15 total in.
Yeah.
Okay. And then do you remember like what you were renting your apartment for, like what your lease
Yeah.
was at the time versus what you were paying mortgage wise afterwards?
Yeah, it was. I took it over. I did end up evicting both sides.
Uh-huh.
It was a hoarder house. I feel bad as a human being. I have empathy. I should say I feel bad. I have empathy for the people that were in that situation.
Yeah.
And I think their rents were $600. When I
Okay.
got done the rehab, I lived in one half, of course, and the other side I think rented at $925. We're at $19.90 a unit now.
Yeah,
Wow.
that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And at the time when you were looking at that, did you know that you could like make it rent for more, or were you just kind of like already underwriting it like, okay, I'll just assume I'm going to get like 600 or?
Yeah, I went full worst case scenario, and so it was I can afford both sides with my mortgage. I was a store manager. It wasn't a store. I was a manager at Trader Joe's, and so I made okay money, but I knew that I could pay both sides of my mortgage on my own.
Right. So if you had vacancy, you weren't.
I wasn't worried about it. It was the second thing I bought that got scary because that's when I was at the whims of the market. So at the time, but in hindsight, it you're going to get tenants. I mean, don't be a slumlord. Good, put out a nice product. Be something that you'd be proud of living in. I lived right next door. Like it,
Yeah.
people knocked down. I think the longest vacancy I had was almost a month, and that's when I was self-managing. Now that I'm a property manager,
In the
it's like
last
2 days.
12 years, you've had a month of vacancy.
Probably a month. I bet in 12 years there's been a total downtime of probably 6 weeks in 12 years.
Now, help us understand, because we haven't actually talked a lot about 203K loans
Yeah.
and rehab loans in the show. So for our audience, like what did that process? I mean, I know it's been a while,
Yeah.
but maybe you help your clients with it now. What is
Yeah.
that? What was that process like for you as a first-time home buyer and like?
It actually, I think, was easier as a first-time homeowner because, again, I had no frame
didn't know
of,
better,
I had
right?
no frame of reference.
Yeah.
I didn't, and as an agent now, I know how much work it is
Right.
Yeah.
to find a contractor who's willing to do the work, to find an agent who's willing to do the work, to find a seller who's willing to go through the work with you.
Yep.
I mean, we just don't do them anymore. I mean, I know they happen, but realistically, there's only a couple a year when I look at the stat charts that happen because it's challenging. But yeah, if you can have a contractor that's willing to work with you, an agent that's willing to work with you, and a seller, you can tie rehab costs into the loan purchase.
And was that property like not financeable without doing the rehab that you did, or was the rehab more for just to make it a better property for you to rent?
Yeah, just to make it a better property. I mean,
Okay.
it would have financed. It needed, I mean, I did new carpet. I put up some shingles on the outside. We put a new roof on. That was during the sale, actually. Kitchen, bathroom. It's
Well, roof sounds like they might have been called out by appraiser. Or...
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was pretty bad. It possibly might not have
Okay.
financed, but
Yeah.
we rolled down that road as if it would finance.
I see. I
Yeah.
see. Oh, that's pretty significant. So there's a roof and some cosmetic stuff on the inside.
And then I did all one half, so I used a 203 for all one side of it.
Yeah.
And got that side up that I rented out. Then I lived in the side that needed more work, but that I could do on my own.
And you
was
just
the
did it
thought
on your
process.
own.
Yeah, I butchered it.
I was gonna say,
Just totally, 100%.
I was going to ask if you were
Yeah.
handy. You
Oh
know.
God, no! I break stuff. That's the Marine Corps coming out. Like I break it, but I pulled the carpet out. I mean, I cleaned the kitchen. My dad actually came and helped me. I think we spent 24 hours of labor cleaning the kitchen. Like at this point, just pay somebody to clean it. They do it half the time. It was bad, but they do it in half the time, half the cost. I mean, I put up my own drywall. I had a friend come help me do that. I painted. But turns out I'm not handy. I don't do good electrical work. I had ceiling fan replacement that was just hanging down for 3 weeks. I was trying to figure out how to fix it, and finally I just paid a guy to come in and put it up, and the electrician's done it in an hour and a half.
Right.
Yeah.
And but since then I put in mini splits. It's about due for another paint job, but otherwise it's been super steady. You buy in a good location, and it takes care of itself.
Where you said it was in Northeast Portland?
Just south of Alberta.
Okay.
Oh, so you're like
Yeah, right off Skidmore. Yeah.
okay.
Perfect walking district. Yeah.
Yeah, it's far.
Exactly where you want to rent, right?
It is. It's far enough off of Alberta, so we're 5-6 blocks off Alberta, south of it. And I told all my tenants this: you don't have a problem parking. You can park on the street. You can park in the driveway. You don't have people stumbling in your yard, but you get to walk up and you get to go enjoy it all you want. So it was a amazing buy that I'm very thankful that I took the jump on.
And what was the square footage about?
It's like each side's 8. It's about 1650-ish.
Oh, pretty good size. So
Yeah.
what would you
Side by side.
estimate the value at now?
7.
Wow. So that's almost what 550,000. I can't do math right now.
Yeah, it's been a good property for me.
Yeah.
I refinanced it and used it to buy or put a down payment on a house. I've got a line of credit on it now. So I mean, I leverage it, but even so,
Right.
probably less than 70% loan to value right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you're at Trader Joe's. You've got the duplex, and after you kind of did the renovation, got it leased up, were you like, oh shit, this is the thing that I'm gonna do, or were you still just like, I'm just gonna?
No, man. 10 months later, I'm looking for the next one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was right after, as I was approaching the 12-month mark. I mean, I knew I could buy it. I wanted to do what I said I would do: live there for 12 months.
Yeah. That's what you signed on the mortgage note. Right?
That's what I signed on the mortgage note. No mortgage fraud. Disclaimer. And so I found a little single family up in St. John's, and I moved into that. I lived there for about a year and a half, and then I did it again. So I think I used my VA loan on that one on the house in St. John's. So then that's another 0 down loan.
Right.
Refinanced in a conventional, and then used my VA loan again to buy one out in a duplex out in Clackamas.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
Oh, no, so then you went back to a duplex again.
Yeah, I mean, single family with an ADU above a garage.
Oh,
but,
perfect.
But 2 units.
Two units.
You said that this second one stretched you a little bit. In a
Yeah,
sense?
yeah.
How so?
I had savings, not as much as in hindsight, not as much as I should have. But again, I was 30. I didn't have really any bills. It wasn't scary, except that if I didn't have a job, I couldn't, and I didn't have tenants, I couldn't afford both payments without dipping my savings. And so that was pretty terrifying because I'm financially or fiscally pretty conservative.
Yeah.
But again, I say it tongue in cheek, but what were they gonna do? What's the worst that was gonna happen? Take my houses away from me? But I would have had to go for months without that. I get another job. I get roommates, I get new tenants in, you're going to be okay. As long as you buy smart, you're going to be okay.
Got it. Okay, so you're in St. John's now. You're there, and you're still, like, just looking to the next project? Were you thinking about, what about the real estate process? At what point did you start getting interested into joining that field professionally?
That's when it happened. So I made a jump. I was moved over to New Seasons, became an assistant store manager, and then eventually a store manager there. And while I was doing that, I started a property management company. I figured I was managing my own. I can manage other people's.
Oh, as like a side business.
Exactly.
So you had to get your license for that.
I did. I got my property manager's license, yeah. So I did that in 2012,
So you were more interested at first in the management side than the actual, like, transactional side.
Yeah. I saw, and I still see, actually, I see a huge need for it. I see a huge opportunity for it. And I think that there is a opportunity for somebody who's operationally strong to provide an amazing service and create.
Especially now with the new rules, right?
Yeah, you could. A fortune can be made in property management. I promptly sold my business though.
You're like, I don't like this as much as I thought.
Yeah, well, so here's the thing: is that with property management, I woke up every day behind the curve. My tenants thought I was. This is hyperbole, but my tenants thought I was a slumlord, and my owners thought I wasn't making enough money. And so every day.
How many accounts were you at?
Oh, I think I had like 5 or 6.
But enough that it was like impinging on your regular career and.
Yeah, so it was. I realized that there's an opportunity here to move forward, but to do that, I need to either quit my day job and go all in on this.
Yeah.
But at the time, then I got married. We have 4 kids. I had too many responsibilities to feel like at the time I could make that jump. And some of the reporting, the accounting processes you have to do, the 3-way reconciliation as a property manager in Oregon, I just said, I don't think this is worth it. I'm going to sell this now. So I sold the business, and I mean, it was small business, but I sold it.
Yeah. But you were able to sell it.
I was able to sell it for
That's actually
profit.
pretty impressive because anytime I feel like you can sell a small business, it's awesome.
It's a win. So, so then that led me to, I took a year or so off. I looked at being a broker for a while. I was really going.
Was Kama encouraging you, or was
she
still?
She stopped me.
Or was she still like, I want to just help you keep buying and?
Well, no, she stopped me because I wasn't doing it for the right reasons.
Oh, okay.
And as soon as that switch flipped in my head, as soon as it took a couple of years, but as soon as I changed my mindset, she was all in.
Interesting.
So.
What was the reason? Because I'm a broker too,
Yeah,
and I can tell you that I became an agent on a dare. So
and you worked out just fine, right? It worked out well, and I probably would have been just fine. But the experience that I had since then in that interim made me a much better agent at what I do. I was running from a job. I was running from an industry that I didn't really like, that I saw a future in. I mean, I know lots of people that are grocers, that are good grocers. It's a good career. It wasn't for me.
Especially at New Seasons, there's a great track there.
Yeah, it's a good track. It is a good company. I like the people I work with, but the idea of doing that for 40 years made me just die inside.
Yeah.
And until I found out what I was running towards, I was just running from something. And so it took a while to figure out what what are you running towards? And I think it's the same thing in real estate. It's what's your goal.
She wanted to do your why. She wanted your why.
Before she'd say, yeah, I think you should do this. And I went on my own. I was on my own for a while. It's not. We can make it look really easy on the team when referrals just come in and the phone rings all the time. And so if that was my only exposure to real estate, I would have not known otherwise. But so I went out on my own for a couple, I think 6 months, 5 months, did 4 deals, made sure like, yep, I can do this, quit New Seasons, and went full time. So.
Oh, wow. So you got your license, and then after 5 months, you felt like your volume was enough that you could just go all in.
I could see a pipeline coming.
Yeah.
I could see that I had proof of concept. Still a little too dumb to know better, but it's a recurring theme. But it's just knowing that at some point in time you got to do something. You got to put your chips on the table and take a risk. And I think what's the worst that's going to happen? I had a little bit of savings. My car was free and clear. My wife was in school or had a job at the time. Like it's.
Oh, she had a job too.
Did she have a job then? Maybe
or at least some future of steady income.
Yes, yeah, she was. I think she was in school at that time when I quit. But it's a tough decision, but it paid off, and you realize that again, the worst case scenario, you just go get a job.
Right.
Like that's it sucks, but it's not the end of the world.
Did you have some cash flow from the properties you had at that point to kind of pull you over a little bit?
Well, I leveraged them pretty heavily, and I paid down some of the leverage. I actually sold a couple since then for other variety of reasons, some good, some poor choices, but not enough to live on. Yeah, but it was enough again that like, okay, I don't have to touch this, and worst case scenario, I can pull the plug. I can sell one, and I can keep us going. It's not the goal. It's not why I have them, but it's an option that you don't have if you don't have them.
I like that mindset because that's the idea that I always think about is it's like just hold on to your house, see what it's like. If you hate it, whatever, sell it.
Yeah.
You were planning on selling it anyways. Like you can always choose to sell, but holding on to it gives you options, right?
Exactly. I look at real estate as options, and I know that in 10 years, if something happens and I need an option, I can sell one of my properties. That if I didn't have that property, I don't have that option. It's not my first choice, but it's nice to have that in the back of your head that I can pull that handle and off I go, and it buys me more time. It helps me not cut back now, right? I mean, real estate, it's not the easiest year in real estate.
No.
But I know that I can continue putting money into marketing. I can continue pouring money into my clients. I can continue pouring money into the team and make sure that we're all on the right path moving forward. Because I know that it's going to get better. All things are cyclical, but also I have a bandwidth that I can tap if I need to. So it gives me a longer runway than some folks who are getting in that have, I've got 3 weeks worth of cash in the bank account. Well, that's not going to help you in real estate when you get started.
Yeah, that's tough. Well, were you jumping into being a broker with more of an investment tint or just straight up residential, like I'll help you into your first home, traditional real estate stuff?
Yeah, I like helping people create wealth through real estate. And so I approach every transaction, every situation, every client as if I'm helping them build wealth through real estate, whether they know it or not. So I would say I approach it with an investment standpoint, but my mind is always, can we rent this house for them? Can we sell this house for them? Who buys this house? Can we turn it into a rental? What happens besides just you living here? And it's always within the framework of what's right for them at that time.
Yeah.
But
it still has to be something they can afford.
Exactly, that they want, that's going to make their life better. But if we're looking at 2 houses and one is, no street parking and backs onto a busy street, I'm going to say, okay, well, so this reduces your option pool on the back end if you go down this road. Not saying don't do it. I'm saying don't do it, but not saying you can't do it, but also why do it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I always start with an investment bent when I talk to my clients, and sometimes they're like, I don't care about this. I just want this house. And I'm like, okay.
So what I do,
hands off the wheel.
I tell them, I get you don't care, but here's the deal. Selfishly, I care because you're going to sell this someday, and I'm going to sell it for you. And if it's a pain to buy now, if it's a pain to sell now, it's going to be a pain for me to sell it later. So let me help you with this, and you'll thank me later. And then, hands off the wheel, right? It's their money.
If they're just like, I just am emotionally attached to this house, and this is the lifestyle I want, I'm just like, okay, I gave you all my feedback on that. Yeah. Some people just don't want to hear that investment stuff. They just want, you can put your couch here, you can put your TV here. Yeah. Oh my God, wouldn't this be a great space for you to, I don't know, walk your dog?
I think we get egos involved a lot that in the transaction that not we, but a lot of agents get their egos involved. I had a conversation earlier this week with buyers that it was, okay, here's what you can ask for. Here's what I think we can get right?
Yeah.
But they didn't want to get it. They were done and they were tired and they were just ready to say okay. And it came down to us going back and forth for 36 hours over $2,000. They weren't worried about it. So I can get my ego in there and push.
Oh yeah.
Or I can just say, this is what my buyer wants. They're good. They're just going to leave that $2,000 on the table because they want to run hood to coast this weekend. They're more concerned about that. Okay, it's their life. And so, yeah, you're right. The investment is important, and I always keep that mindset. But I don't, and I tell them up front, I'm going to be your wealth advisor. I said I'm part of your wealth journey, not a financial advisor, or not a certified financial planner, but I'm part of your wealth journey. And we're going to be here because I'm not transactional and relationship based. I'll be here for years and years and years for you, and ultimately it's got to be the right house.
Yeah. Like I said, I definitely love pushing my investment philosophy on people, but if it's just not being heard, I'm like, I understand that.
Yeah.
And, obviously at the end of the day, you just try to give them the best experience, give them all the forewarnings of, like you said, this might not sell in the future. Yeah. This may have some issues, but, getting appreciation, etc. But, as long as you know what you're getting into, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. I always tell people it's your money. I'm not signing your mortgage. I'm not paying your bills. Yep. I'm going to tell you what I think. I think that's what you want. I'm going to tell you my opinion. I'm going to tell you the reasons why. And I'm going to give you your options in everything. And you might only have two, right? It might be take it or leave it. But here are your options. And then it's your choice. Right. And I'm going to help you ask the questions. And investing is the same way. It's what questions you need to ask to further your goals. I'm going to help you ask those questions so you're asking the right questions so you can make a confident decision.
Yeah, that fiduciary aspect of our careers, I think, is sometimes glossed over. And it's super important that because, ultimately, what percentage of our clients is that single-family home, their largest investment and their largest asset?
A huge amount,
Oh, yeah.
Even in the investor world, the house is going to appreciate faster than the duplex generally, right? And
generally,
so it's going to get them. That's still going to be a nice plug-and-play piece later in their life, even if they do turn it into investment in the future. And if not, well, then they'll sell it in the future or give it to a kid or donate it to charity or do whatever they want to do with it. That's okay. Yeah. Because it's their choice as long as we show them the path.
Switching gears here, you mentioned earlier that you still feel comfortable putting on marketing spend in this market, which, a lot of us are kind of like tightening up, right? The market's tightening for everybody. We're a little bit nervous about spending money on marketing spend. And one thing I noticed that working with your team is that you're really good about gifting and expressing gratitude. I think during a transaction, you guys were the listing agent, and at closing, you sent me a gift, and I was like, that's weird. Like surprise. I think in the 300 or 400 or whatever, how many transactions I've done in the last years, I don't think that's ever happened to me before, and it was like, I'm going to remember that person. What's your mindset with marketing? What have you done that you found successful, and have you played around with different strategies or?
I'm all referral, all referral based. I relationship based. I think if I take care of people, they will send people to take care of me, and I feel like that's recession proof. That's good market. That's bad market proof. That if I put their needs first, I talked to people out of selling last week. I go home, hey babe, I talked to people out of selling last week. $30,000 I didn't bring into the business, but it's the right thing to do for them, right? And so, and they know that, and they appreciate it, and it's easy to say that right up front, but it's when you show them throughout the process. And so with the marketing, events. Client events, all right. I do try to express gratitude. I know it takes a village, right? Every transaction's got a you and a you on it and a me in it. There's two different agents, right? Because I don't double in deals. There's a lender involved. There's appraisers involved. There's inspectors involved. And I know that when we're sitting here looking at multiple offers, that we need to look at who's the agent involved, who's the lender involved, and it's a small world. And I've had deals accepted because of the lender we're using, right? Solely based on that. I've had deals accepted solely because they've worked with us in the past or had a good experience. I've had deals that aren't great deals, but we still treated the agent with respect. And so when the name comes up again, you get a boost. And it's the same thing in the investment world. It's a small community of investors. And if you get a reputation of burning bridges and zero-sum mentality and you've got to bleed in the street for me to win, man, nobody's going to want to do deals with you.
That's interesting you mentioned about not great deals, because I have had times when the deal is a little bit rocky or something. There's teeth on it because one side is either inexperienced or just very combative. That kind of instantly creates relationship, and it's actually it's more of an opportunity than you would expect. instead of being like, oh, well, I can't work with these people because it was a bad deal. But that's not always the case, right? Depending on your communication.
Right. I tell people up front that we're cooperating brokers. If we're in a deal together, we're cooperating brokers. That doesn't mean that you're not trying to get the best thing possible for your client, and I'm trying to get the best thing possible for my client. But it does mean that to get my client what they want, I need to get your client what they want.
Yeah.
And if we find that middle ground, it's not always money. Sometimes it is, but it's not always money. But we can work through that. And then when the deal, if there's a challenging moment, we can have an open human conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I said, I work with a lot of agents, and sometimes it gets personal, and maybe not from my end, but for them. And I'm just like, look, I am just pushing for the best for my client, what they want. Hopefully understand that. And otherwise, we can be cool after this, but don't need to do with the name calling or.
Right. I got screamed at. This has been earlier this year. I got screamed at by an agent, a good agent too, with a good reputation, called insane. And it was a very normal buyer request, and just screaming. And I had to stop this agent and say, "Is everything okay?" Human to human. Put aside the agent stuff for a minute. There's what I know is. There's something else going on, and it's being taken out of me. But that's why you have an agent. That's why, for that buffer, because then I'm an emotional person. I'm sensitive. I don't always admit it. I wish I was that tough guy, but I'm not. I take it home, but that's my job.
Right.
Is so that it doesn't go to the buyer or the seller and poison the transaction, because they have to live in that house for 30 years.
Yep.
And I haven't had to buy very many smudge sticks, but I buy them every once in a while. If it's a tough transaction, I try to keep that from leaking through to my buyer or my seller. Mm-hmm. But I'll buy them some sage. Let's smudge this house before you move in. That's cool. It's all right. So.
You said something important there too. You kind of stopped the agent and said, hey, are you okay? Because, and just like being a fiduciary, you can know a certain percentage of somebody's life, right? From talking to your client. Even me, I collect so much data on somebody. Mm-hmm. I look at a bunch of their bank accounts. I look at all this stuff. But I always say, I'm only seeing the financial picture that you show me and tell me. There could be all this other stuff going on in your life. So when it comes to those interactions, I think that's super important to be conscious of that.
And they could blow you off, and that's fine. But it helps me sleep at night, and it helps me know that there is a human being. I recognize there's a human being on it. There's a human being as a tenant. There's a human being that's your barista. There's a human being that's your grocery store clerk. There's a human being that's your waiter. There's a human being in the other car that just cut you off. It costs you nothing to be kind, and it doesn't make you weak. It doesn't. I get my clients so much more by being a human being, right? And I'm holding firm right now. My phone it's on Do Not Disturb, but I'm holding very firm for my sellers right now on a situation. And again, firmness doesn't equal weak. It just equals you can do this job and be a human being and still get a good result. So, and sleep at night and look your kids in the face. It's important. It's really important for me anyway. So, and if not, then I'm not your guy, right? That's okay. You're not everything to all people. I'm not everything to all people. You're not every lender to all people.
Nope.
That's fine. I'll refer you to an agent. I know. I got a couple. Yeah. Why don't you talk to them? So, yeah.
And so in terms of the investment world, what are you thinking about with your portfolio? Are you still trying to make ads here in this market? What are you seeing out there deal wise?
I am. So I branched. I've got a couple of vacation rentals out of the coast. I've been out of state. I bought with a 401k, self-directed.
Oh, wow.
So I've done a bunch of...
So you're still making a lot of moves.
Yeah. As many as I can. Yeah. I think right now is an acquisition period. I think that this is going to be one of those times where people look back. And if there's nobody that wouldn't go back to the Great Recession and buy more, right? Knowing what we know now, you buy in 2006, ride the dip down and be perfectly happy on the other side. There's nobody that wouldn't go back to the last time rates were 5%. What was it, 2019? Where they were edging at 5%. There's nobody that wouldn't go back to the beginning of the pandemic and buy more. And I think we're in that spot right now. And people are scared of the rates, and I get it. But when everybody's scared, that's when you need to look for opportunity. And it's easier when you have a relationship with somebody to have that conversation because it doesn't come across as salesy because they know I'm not trying to sell them something that they don't have to buy. But I think people are missing an opportunity right now because they look at a rate. And if that's the only thing you look at, well, sure, don't buy. Right. But you've got to look at what's your long-term goal? What are you trying to accomplish? And there's some good buys out there right now. I mean, if I had an abundance of, I shouldn't say if I had an abundance of money. If I had a never-ending pot of money right now, I would be buying a bunch of condos in downtown. Which is counter to a lot of
because their price is
the prices are 2018 prices. It's crazy. Not every condo, but there are some good condos and good buildings, and I believe it will come back.
Yeah, is it going to come back in the next 1 to 3 years? Maybe not.
Yeah, 20 years from now. Yep.
Probably.
So
yeah.
again, and I use that example, not just condos downtown, but any property that you want right now. I don't see a world, at least in the Portland metro area, where it's worth less money in 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't see that world. And if it does happen, let's say 30 years from now, home prices are less than they are right now, there's something so catastrophically gone wrong with our society that it doesn't matter. Like, and I'm trying to be flippant, but it doesn't actually matter because something else crazy is going on.
Yeah, like the big quake or something.
Yeah, I mean, if it levels everything,
Right.
that's my favorite about earthquake strapping. Well, this house is not earthquake strapped. Well, I know, but 9.0, it's going to knock down everything. So, like, just get earthquake insurance and call it a day.
We're like 50 years past due, I think.
Yeah, and we can't control it. Can't
Right.
control it. So, do we let that fear? I think fear drives a lot of our activities, and I try to get over that and I try to help people through it, because we buy on emotion and we rationalize with fact, right? So you have a couple that's having a kid, and I'm like, okay, you're having a child. Are you contributing to your 401k? Yeah. So you do think life's going to be here in 30 years. You think life's going to be better. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a kid and you wouldn't contribute to your retirement or worry about it. So I know it's scary right now, but in 30 years, it's going to be okay. And everybody looks back and says, oh, you can never buy a house for, $95,000 again. Well, you can't. But you also, in 30 years from now, you'll never be able to look back and buy a house for $600,000.
Yeah.
So buy the house.
Yep.
Yeah.
I always think when people say, "Oh, what if the market crashes and everything's," and it's like, then we're all in shit, and
Then
everything sucks, and it hurts for everybody.
Yeah.
And at least I have a house to sell that's probably that I've been paying off for some time.
Sure.
And you could be potentially just paying rent, and that's it, and have no money now that you've lost your job and all this stuff, and have no assets.
Yeah. Well, and you're paying 100% of the interest rate. So you're worried about paying 7% interest now because it might crash, but you're paying 100% every month on rent. Like every single month, you're paying 100% of that rent. So I don't tell people they should buy if they shouldn't buy, but most people should buy a house as soon as they can, or a duplex, or a plex of any kind.
Fourplex.
Or fourplex. Because it gives you those options. You can always get more roommates. You can always put people in there. It gives you an option you don't otherwise have. And if you don't sell it, if everything crashes and you don't sell it, you don't lose any money.
Yeah.
Just ride it out the other side. It's just like the stock market. You just ride it out the other side. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah, people don't stop buying in their retirement account. You gotta buy in it every month.
Yeah, exactly. You just keep putting the money away towards it, and you know that creates this asset for you long term. And yeah, it's totally scary. Of course it is. Nobody wants to be left holding a bag. Nobody does. And when you look back at it, you're not going to be left holding the bag. I mean, you could buy the biggest piece of junk on the market right now in the Portland metro area, and you can do nothing to it except pay the property taxes for the next 20 years, and you will sell it for more money than you sold it for right now.
Yeah.
There's no bag to be left holding. 7%. I mean, look at all the people that were waiting for the crash at 6.8%, and now it's 7.3%, right? And it's gonna fluctuate. You just have to get okay with it. Do the fundamentals work? Does it advance your goal? Does it put you further along where you want to be? And then you just do it.
No, I agree. And I mean, I'm not gonna say I personally like high interest rates, but
No.
I like less competition.
Yeah.
I like being able to negotiate. I like getting it the lowest price point I can.
Yeah.
I know that's the best indicator in terms of how much wealth you're going to build on a property.
Yeah.
And there's always, like, hopefully rates drop, Jordan,
Yeah.
at some point, and we refinance.
Yeah, I mean, and if they go up, then you bought at the right time.
Then you bought the right time, right? And I look for clues and kind of these tea leaves along the way. And I tell people I'm not a Nobel Prize winning economist, and I pay attention, right? And so when I see Warren Buffett put $800 million into buying D.R. Horton and Lennar, he believes in the future of home building, right? You guys have had home builders on here before. People are buying.
There's not enough houses for the amount of people we have.
I'm not an economist. Supply and demand, I understand though, and I don't see Portland. I mean, yeah, everybody points back to Oregon lost, population. So 2 years out of 25 we lost population. I'm pretty okay with Multnomah County dripping a little bit out in the suburbs in Clark County.
Yeah.
There's not enough houses for everybody that wants to, and the governor's plan to build 36,000 a year. It's not going to happen.
Good luck.
I don't want to be negative. Like
I mean,
I wish her well. I wish it does happen, but it's not going to. Cost of materials, cost of labor, building permits, building process.
Land in general.
The land in general.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. Like I said, I say Portland still has a lot of opportunity.
Yes.
I lived in San Francisco. I lived in LA. I lived in Seattle.
Sure. Yep.
They're definitely not building.
They're not building either.
And we're cheaper.
And we're less expensive. You've got all these people from San Francisco, Seattle. We are still the least expensive big city on the West Coast.
That's exactly what I say all the time.
And it's true. You can look at it, and that's people are like, oh, I should. The same people that think that's not true are looking at. I want to go to Texas. I want to go to Tennessee. I want to go to Kansas City, and well, you're doing the same thing that Seattle and San Francisco and LA people are doing to us. Why are you you can't be any different than what's already out there.
Yeah, and even with our crime, I'm like,
and
I'm kind of jaded because I lived in San Francisco for like 8 years. I'm like, So it's there is worse. There's Skid Row. There's places in Seattle that are pretty bad. So I would say there's a lot more room for us to keep moving in the wrong direction.
There is, and I'm not a Pollyanna, right? I recognize bad things happen. And are there things in the city that I don't like? Of course there are. But we do a fair amount of travel. I go places for conventions. We go places for fun. There's not. I was in Montreal earlier this year. Montreal is supposed to be this epicenter of culture in North America. It was dirty, just like Portland was. It had a transient problem, just like Portland does. I saw mental health issues. Like, I'm not making light of it, but I'm recognizing that we're not alone.
Yeah, it's not a Portland thing. Yeah. It's a global thing, unfortunately.
And maybe we're not handling it the best way it could be. I don't know what the best way is either. But I do know that everybody else is having the same problem that we are. And so if we can look beyond that, we have the perspective to recognize all the other reasons people come here, they're coming back. I believe that.
Yeah.
You mentioned vacation properties on the coast.
Yeah.
I've heard, every time I talk about Airbnbs, every once in a while, someone kind of outside of that world is like, "Hey, what's going on with Airbnb? I've heard it's way down."
Yeah.
How are those investments working out for you? Are you guys maintaining? Or?
Yeah, we lost a little this year. It's a little down, but I'd still buy more. We own 2 in Lincoln City. It's in the commercial. So the coast is not friendly to vacation rentals, right? In general,
depending on the township, but
depending on where you are.
Right.
But if you buy in a commercial zone, just like you buy, just like here, you can do the same thing. You buy in a commercial zone, and we don't run afoul of the rules there.
They don't care if you're running a hotel because it's a commercial zone.
It's a commercial zone, and it's actually an old hotel that got converted to condos.
Oh,
so
awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's designed. You actually in the codes, covenants, and restrictions, you can't live there permanently. It's only designed to be a short-term rental.
Do you have to get like some kind of hotel or motel permit or something? Is that the restriction?
Yeah, I mean I should know the answer. Yes, yes, but the property management company takes care of all that for me. They take care of bookings. They take care of maintenance. They take care of everything. They take care of.
And what is their cut? What is
30%?
30%, but you're still cash flow.
Oh yeah,
really?
Yeah.
When did you buy?
One last year, one the year before. So
man, anytime I look at that and I just like do the numbers on the back of the napkin math, I'm always like, it looks like I'll just like be able to, pay the mortgage and have a vacation home. But
so the advantage of these is part of the reason that we were able to get in low because it's on leased land, so you can't get a loan. So it keeps the price down.
Okay.
Which there's dangers of that. We can go into
right, because so you can't sell it for as much later.
Right, if the lease expires, which it expires in 12 years now. But I did the math, and even with all cash in, it was still I worked out to like a 14% return if I lost everything in 12 years. So I was okay with that, and then I used a 401k to buy another one. So.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
okay,
so
interesting.
There's one right across the river. Same basic setup. Old converted motel. It was $200,000. That HOA was $800 a month. So that one you're more likely to break even. But I look at the lifestyle approach of these. So I was down there for July 4th. Oceanfront view, hang out, always have a place to go. There's a lifestyle component to investing that I think people forget about sometimes.
Totally.
And so we get to use that. So if the cost is I break even and I'm only gaining on equity appreciation. And some cash flow in these cases because they're leased land, I'm okay with that because we get to go down there. I was down there last year for my wife's birthday and it was snowing at the beach. So we got to sit there, like literally it's window, ocean. And so you're just sitting there staring and watching the snow fall on the beach. Like, okay, so I could have gotten a 7% return cash on cash if I went over here, but who cares? Because I have that memory for the rest of my life.
Totally.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting.
And so you're going to continue to go down the short-term rental route, or do you have a preference at this point?
Yeah, I would. I'd actually like to diversify out of the building. I think we'll probably sell one next year and take that and put in a short-term rental in Myrtle Beach, and where I can leverage it, and at least I'll boost the long-term rate of return that way. I would buy a short-term rental hands down in the right places. I look unincorporated Washington County. In RMLS. Do you? Oh man, I sat there for I won't tell you how many hours I spent drawing out a map of unincorporated Washington County so I could search specifically for 5-bedroom rentals or 5-bedroom houses in unincorporated Washington County because I think that's where a bunch of money can be made.
Yeah, I have a 4-bedroom in Portland,
unincorporated Portland,
next to Jesuit High School. And no rules, you
just do what you want. Yeah,
it's awesome.
And I've been told by there's a short-term property manager there I like that there are some regulations coming, but Washington County is actually engaging with stakeholders, and I think we'll have some reasonable restrictions on that.
There'll be some restrictions coming, but not super aggressive.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm more looking long term. I want to balance that out. I still like long term buy and hold. I think it makes sense. And I like appreciation. You got to know, why are you buying, and what is that getting you, and don't expect to buy in the Midwest and get double-digit return on appreciation every single year.
Right.
Like, you've got to know that that's not what that property's going to be.
Let's just say I have a lot of clients who are like, oh, I want an Airbnb. I'm like, you realize this is a full-time business,
It's a job.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially
And
unless you're willing to pay
the
$25.
manager,
or you pay,
and then it's super passive, right?
But then
It's
you've got to make that choice, and 30% is a lot. Right?
Yep.
And you don't have to manage it. I could manage it myself, and I know somebody who does, and they organize their own cleaning, they do all their own advertising. At what cost to me in time for my real job here?
And context switching all the time.
100%. Yeah. So again, if that's what you want to do, if you're 30 years old or 20 years old and you have no responsibility, do that. 100%. I'd rather spend time on my business or with my family, or just staring at a wall at this point, rather than managing that process. Like, that's not what I want to do. So I'm willing to pay that price, and that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that I did it for a year, and then I passed off the property management. And yes, I made more money when I was doing it myself, but the stress and the time, I was like, you know what? If this breaks even, I do not care.
Don't care, because you're still going to gain. You're still going to gain long term,
Right.
and I turn all of my stuff is run by a property manager. My long term too. I can do it. I'm aware of the rules.
Yeah.
It's just the penalty for being wrong has gotten so much higher. I still think there's opportunity, but I actually make more money with the property manager because I was bending rules and like, oh yeah, I won't. It's just, I get a property manager in there, let them be a professional. They take better care of it than I do. They keep it maintained, and they actually get me a better return.
Oh, and
on my own.
In Oregon, there's State Bill 611.
Yeah.
And you have to get this paper on by the 8th, and you
Yes.
have to send them this by the 15th,
Yeah.
and this by the 22nd. I'm just like, who has time for that?
If you don't send the right notice, and God, I just was in a class last week about another training. Yeah, if you don't send the right, like, here's this notice of what this is about on the right form, you're liable to 3 months rent, or 3 months rent plus actual damages, which can include attorney fees.
Yeah.
Like, why? I'm going to pay a property manager. Oh, I'll pay a
Let
property
them
manager.
do this. They better be well versed on this law.
Yeah, and have insurance if they're wrong.
Yeah.
That's okay. Like, you're not going to hit 100% every time. I recognize that. So I want to continue to grow. I'm in a
at a certain point that becomes a pretty significant liability if
Yeah.
you have a decent amount of properties. 'Cause
Yeah.
if you add that up on all your properties, that's going to be a big number.
For sure. I have clients who inherited, friends of mine who inherited a bunch of properties, and they came to me and said, Matthew, you're always talking about real estate. Like, why am I not making money on this? And so I sat down with them. We did a rent calculation. We did a rent report, and we looked at it, and they're under renting like $15,000 a month. It was almost 40% under rented every single month. I said, that's why you're losing money. Like, so let's get that fixed. Here's how we get that done. Like, how do we get this up? Let's get it in a property manager's hands, because you guys both have full-time jobs.
Yep.
Don't worry about it. Let them handle it. And so, they're going to pay a property manager money, but they're still going to come out $10,000 ahead of where they are a month right now. So, yeah, I think it's just that perspective of what's the big picture instead of getting so focused right here, what's in front of me right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I still haven't done long-term property management. I have
Mhm.
short-term property management,
Yeah.
which is actually a lot higher percentage. But
Yeah.
I always looked at that like, oh man, it's either 10 to 14%.
Mhm.
Ooh, I don't know. I mean,
Right? Yeah.
But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I might pass some of my long-term off to property management.
Yeah, I think finding a good property manager is vital. There's just like agents, right?
Yeah,
the
exactly.
barrier to entry is, it's like getting married. Real easy to do, hard to stay in. It's really easy to be a property manager, and there are some great ones out there. There's some great agents out here. There are some that honestly do a disservice. I've seen agents that actually cost their clients money because they paid their agent a lot of money to do a bad job, and that's just. So vet them, talk to people, get referrals. I'm a referral guy. Get referrals, and make sure that you're vetting it and you know what you're buying and you know what you're getting. And then you still have to manage the manager. I'm in contact with the condos out on the coast on a regular basis. I'm in contact with my guy here in Portland. I'm in contact with the ones out in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Like it's still that's my job. But now I get to manage 3 people instead of
Right.
this. Yeah.
Totally understand.
So what's your kind of medium or longer, your 5-year, 10-year kind of horizon or plan moving forward with your investments and your business?
Growing my business. I'm growing my agent count. Oh God, that sounded so bad. Can we edit that? It's not my agent count that I'm growing. What I do, my business is support as a service, right? I know that I can support a lot of agents. The business can support a lot of agents. High-end marketing. They've got to be the right agent for the team, right? They've got to be a referral-based agent. If a cold caller comes on the team, there's no shame with that, but we're not going to be able to support them in the right way, right? So getting alignment with people that are doing what I'm doing and helping them get what their goals are. So that's the business end of growing KamaHomes. Personally, I'm just trying to acquire as much as I can in the next 10 to 12 years. I'm 43, so I figure if I can acquire as much as I can till 55 and then spend 5 to 7 years paying off as much as I can, then I'll be set. Yeah, so what that looks like, I'm really open. That's why I've done a bunch of stuff, is I want to put my own money to something before I ask for anybody else's money. So I'd like to get into some development. I've done flips. I'm doing one right now. By doing one, I mean just sitting and waiting for approval from the NHOA, but that's another story. Right. So, but I wouldn't want to go ask somebody else for their money if I haven't done it myself. Right. So I will probably do a small development at some point in time with my own money and my own funds, and then do an investment fund.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's kind of long term.
Wow, so you're kind of stepping your way up. I like it.
Yeah, because that way I can look somebody in the eye and say, yeah, my money's in this too. I've got skin in the game. Yes, here's what we've done in the past. Here's the pro forma. It might not work. You might not get where we expect to be, but here's at least the steps that we're doing, and I have put my own money at risk for this.
I was going to say, most people don't sell pro formas like that. They say this is the best thing ever.
Yeah, no way. Yeah, no way, man. And again, I won't be all things to all people, because there are people that want that.
Right.
I'm going to tell you, here's the worst case scenario. Like my flips, I work on my second one. I'm not a flipper, because I'm really, really diligent about what's my worst case scenario. And my worst case scenario has to be break even. And if it's not break even, and I mean everything that goes wrong can go wrong, break even, then I just don't do it. It's not, I don't have scale in that way, and I don't want to build enough scale to take those risks on. So break even or nothing.
You might miss some deals, but you're not going to get burned.
But I'm not going to get burned. Yeah, exactly. So,
makes sense.
Yeah.
And if you were, if one of our listeners here was like kind of sitting on the sideline thinking about it, getting invested into their first property, but wasn't sure, how to go about doing that, what would you recommend would be like a great way to get started?
I think before you get started, you need to figure out where you're trying to go, and have that perspective and align your activities with your goals. I think that's why a lot of agents don't succeed. I think that's probably why a lot of lenders don't succeed. That's why a lot of investors don't succeed, is their activities aren't aligned with what their goals are. Yeah. If you want to syndicate, if you want to do syndication and you want to own 10,000 doors in 3 years, well, you can do that, but that has to be your focus then on every single thing. If you just want to own a couple properties, you can do that too, and your activities can be different. So get those in alignment, and that way you're not disappointed in the future. I try to talk buyers out of buying. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but that's my first job, is to stop people from buying a bad house. And so I talked to them about, okay, so how long are you going to be in the Portland metro area? We might move in 2 years. Are you sure you want to buy right now? And if they're investors, my answer be yes. Okay, well then let's buy with an eye not to what makes you happy, but what makes a tenant happy.
Something that you could easily convert into a rental.
Exactly, but we don't know that if we don't go down the road and have the conversation about what you're trying to accomplish and what the future looks like. And we don't know, but you can at least put some guardrails on that. So I'd say the first step is get with competent advisors that are going to give you the best information for you and your situation, and then ultimately you have to make your own decision. Yeah.
I was gonna say, you talk buyers out of buying. I talk sellers out of selling.
All day long.
What's your mortgage?
Yeah.
Whoa! Did you know you could rent this for $500 more a month?
Yes, I did it on Saturday. I shouldn't have advertised that I was working on Saturday. I tried to take some time for myself, but I did it on Saturday. Yeah. We said, look, we can sell. I will sell it for you. We probably will, but I walked through the math of get a HELOC. Here's what your total payment's going to be. You can put this on the next one. Like, it's because you will never buy that asset back at that price.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or if you sell it, hey, here's all your capital gains.
Right. Yeah.
Have fun paying taxes.
Have fun with that. Like I recognize that I need to, for personally, selfishly, I need to sell houses to pay my bills. I don't need to sell their house.
Yeah.
I don't need to sell that particular one.
Right.
So why not do the right thing?
Yep.
And so that's what I would say, is figure out what that goal is. And then that could be a house hack, right? I think that works really well for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I just had a friend that I helped him buy their second house. He came to me at an investment seminar or a wealth building panel discussion I did earlier this year, and he was all set to go buy a short-term rental. And then we talked about what's the goal. Well, the goal is that they have these assets that they can use for their girls when their girls are older, for college. I said, well, just buy another house in the same school district you're already in. And that worked out to be a much better choice for them. They were able to get more house here because they were owner occupied, than they could take that same money into a short-term rental somewhere they didn't know or have a tie to.
Right. So
it's finding out what that piece is. And now eventually they'll do it again, or they'll pull money out and buy something, a true rental. But there's some easy ways to get started in this. House hacking is probably the easiest. I did it accidentally. I didn't know what it was at the time.
Me too.
It was accidental. But, I think that's an easier, more forgiving route for a lot of people that doesn't take 20 or 25% down or get into, like, how are you going to explain seller financing to somebody who's never bought a house before?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
the last 2 episodes were about that. But.
Yeah, which is great. It's one of the things I've never done. We've approached it. We talked about it at a 10-unit apartment complex I was working on last year that didn't quite pan out. But again, if you're trying to run before you can walk, and you're trying to go to a seller and explain to them the benefits of why they should do a wrap with you, well, like, maybe you should own your own home first, right? And be able to speak to that. I think that's the foundation, and maybe it's different if you have different goals, but that's how I would approach it first.
No, I get that. I like that, and especially with like rates how high they are. And if you, like, even with like getting into an FHA, those payments are ridiculous. So hey, offset it, find a way. Hey, be creative. Defer some. Defer some, not gratitude, but defer your. I can't think of the word.
Oh man.
Gratification.
Thank you.
Defer gratification for a bit, and obviously build an investment, and that's the good way, to get in a harder market, lower price. And hey, in the future, thank me next year when Jordan promises us 4% rates.
Yeah, you told me 3.5.
Refinance, those payments are going to drop significantly.
Yeah, and as long as you can afford them now, you're going to be fine. And if they don't
Most importantly,
can
you afford it now?
And it doesn't even just have to be young, right? I work with a lot of people who their kids are going off to college. And, well, okay, you're going to pay their dorm fees. But you buy a house where I just help I helped some people in Poughkeepsie, New York. I connected some people to their daughter got accepted to college there. And they said, look, we're going to pay, I think it was like $80,000 over the next 4 years on housing costs. I said, why don't we just put that money into, as a private school, why don't we just put that money into a house nearby, and then she's going to have roommates that live there, and then in 4 years we can sell it, but at least it's building them appreciation in the meantime, or they keep it as a college rental.
Well, and if they're super savvy, they can hire their kid as a manager. And then pay into their retirement account.
Right, right. But you gotta walk before you run.
But you gotta first get the property before you do that.
So it's not just, to me, it's not just about young kids. Older people can start investing if they haven't. Go.
Oh yeah.
Buy a vacation rental, and you like to go to Mexico, go buy a vacation rental in Mexico or Costa Rica or out of the coast or in Bend or, Palm Springs or whatever you want to do that helps benefit your life. There's lots of ways to make that happen.
Yeah, if you're empty nester, just maybe redo your basement into a rental, and as long as you don't mind that, like, you have some income coming to your house.
I'm trying to get my parents to buy a duplex all the time. Mom, again, if you made it this far, let's buy a duplex. Like, it makes sense to provide that cash flow later in life. You're going to need elder care. Like, it's happening. You're going to need medical care. You're going to need, and if you don't, and I'm wrong, great. Then you've just got more assets to go have fun with.
I mean, I always think of, like, in case of a huge emergency, a family member gets cancer, I get cancer or something like that. Okay, well, I'll sell one of these houses, get a couple $100,000. Covers. Obviously, like a life-threatening situation, and I don't have to be in debt for that.
Exactly. You don't have to run your assets down. And if you plan ahead, you work with the state attorneys, get them put in trust the correct way so that you don't have the Medicare look back. Like, there's a lot of things you can do, but you've got to set yourself up with that future vision. I think so many people put their head down, and they're analyzing. I know you guys have said it before. You just said in your recap a couple weeks ago, like, just do it. At some point in time, you've got to take a step, and you've got to trust yourself that the worst case scenario is probably not going to happen. The best case scenario is probably not going to happen, but the worst case scenario is probably also not going to happen. So, and don't risk money you can't lose. I guess that's it. Like, if you can't afford to lose the money, don't put it on the table.
Yeah, I was gonna say, start safe. Like, even with my fourplex, I was like, and I didn't know anything about rentals then. Like, I was like, if nobody rents any units and it's completely empty, I didn't know anything about rentals at this point.
Yeah.
I was like, if I can afford this mortgage with my W-2 job, I'm okay. I can take this step.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I was like, okay, let's go for this.
100%. I mean, that's when I bought the rental in the Midwest. That was my thought process. I saved up. My wife and I talked about it. We said, look, I'm going to cry really hard if we lose this money. It's not going to be a good day.
Yeah.
But it's not going to cripple our financial future. I'm not borrowing from something else. I'm not, this wasn't a 401k. This wasn't a home equity line of credit. This was just a pile of cash that we'd saved up a little bit over time, and we could put this towards us to try it. Because I'd heard horror stories, but I wanted to put my own money into it to try it first. Again, I would cry if that went away. But the worst case scenario is probably not going to happen. So, yeah, perspective.
It's okay. I cry when I stub my toes. So.
It's true. Yeah. Exactly. So, is that helpful?
Super helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it. And if people are trying to get a hold of you, find you on social media, or just contact you in general, how could they find you?
Website KamaHomes, KamaHomes.com. Instagram Kama_homes, or all over online Mathew at KamaHomes.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for the insight, and we're looking forward to putting the episode out there.
Appreciate you guys having me. Happy 50th. Happy 50th, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Now I've committed you to 50. This has got to go out on number 50. So no preemption.
All right, we'll see how it goes.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.